As someone who's watched New Japan for the last 3 years, I can say with my chest, there's not a single shot in hell we're going to be getting any of those, any of the guys you guys are thinking of. They're not winning a championship, I'm sorry. I would love to see those guys go after and possibly win the championship, but we all know there's like 5 people in that main event scene, and those 5 people are the only people who are ever going to win that championship. Okay, so New Japan Pro Wrestling is in probably, I would say, one of the worst spots they've been in maybe since Enochiism. Like, I don't remember a time where New Japan has been in such a rut in terms of talent they have, in terms of booking, in terms of champions, in terms of consistency. Like, they are just all off and all over the place right now. And listen, I'm not here to shame New Japan, but news just broke about an hour or two ago, and I originally was going to cover this on the next episode of the Chill Spill podcast, but I'm like, well, I didn't live stream on YouTube yesterday, so I figured why not put some content out today. And that news is that Will Ospreay, the then IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, has come down with a neck injury, and while there is no extent to how long he'll be out, that's been revealed just yet, it is bad enough to the point where New Japan Pro Wrestling has stripped Will Ospreay of the championship, which is now vacated. So only 40 plus days after beating Kota Ibushi for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship World, gotta put the world in there, World Heavyweight Championship, to become the second champion in that lineage, he has had to relinquish the championship. And it's really upsetting. And you know, I'm not a Will Ospreay fan. You guys know this. I'm not a big fan of Will Ospreay. I wouldn't even consider myself a fan of Will Ospreay in general. I think he's a damn good wrestler, sometimes even great at wrestling. But there's a lot of aspects of Will Ospreay that I don't like. I do feel for the guy, especially at the height of his career. I mean, I don't remember a single point in time where Will Ospreay was at a higher peak than he is now. He's the leader of a faction. You could say he's the leader of a top faction, a top heel faction in New Japan. He's the World Heavyweight Champion. He's in main events every week. He was going to main event the Tokyo Dome, Wrestle Grand Slam, which is coming up on the 29th, which I believe that show's canceled as well, so that's not going to happen. He was really getting the gears going, and I think that even though I could talk all day about how bad New Japan is, putting the World Heavyweight Championship on Will Ospreay is a different thing. You know, you're always used to the guys like Okada and Tanahashi and Naito and, you know, your Jay White's always holding the championships. Well, in the last 2 months, we've had Kota Ibushi and Will Ospreay. Two very much different guys who held that championship. Now, of course, Kota Ibushi won a championship in January, but still, those are two different champions from the lineage of Jay White, Okada, Naito, and Tanahashi. So they were taking steps to go in a different direction, and that was good. But it seemed like the path they were taking was just not working. Booking was not on point. New Japan creatively was just, and is just, not in a good place. And that's why I think a lot of fans like myself aren't really paying attention to the product right now. But then when you go and you hear this, you kind of feel sympathetic for New Japan, because it's like, ever since COVID happened, this company has just taken L after L after L. It's almost like right after Naito won the IWGP Heavyweight and IC Championship at Wrestle Kingdom 14, it's just been a downward slope. Losing talent, having to shoehorn somebody into the main event scene, and then once you get your top talent back, forgetting about him, basically ruining and scrapping of the IWGP championships to make a new one, which was very unnecessary. Just all around not good decisions they've been making. But now we're at this point where it's like you don't know exactly what could New Japan do to really get back to that point. And right now you have this faction in the Commonwealth, which is just consisting now of the Great Okan, Aaron Hanare, and Jeff Cobb. And those 6 guys alone, they're good, but I don't think standalone they're going to do very well. I'm not trying to underrate their abilities as in-ring talent, but I don't think they're going to do very well by themselves. And that's not to say that Will Ospreay carried the faction, but Will Ospreay as the leader was probably for the best. He probably was for the best. Let's just put it that way. But now the question is, well, now we don't have a World Heavyweight Champion. Who do we put in that spot? Who is going to be the next World Heavyweight Champion? I see a lot of people floating names around like, oh, this is a time for us to get a championship on Suzuki or to push Shingo or push Ishii. And as someone who's watched New Japan for the last 3 years, I can say with my chest, there's not a single shot in hell we're going to be getting any of those, any of the guys you guys are thinking of. They're not winning a championship. I'm sorry. I would love to see those guys go after and possibly win the championship, but we all know there's like 5 people in that main event scene, and those 5 people are the only people who are ever going to win that championship. Look at the last 12 years of champions and you'll know why I said that. So when I looked at the lay of the land right now, Jay White's the current never champion, so he's out of the question. He's shooting with Tanahashi, so he's kind of out of the question too. Naito, I don't really see Naito going back to that championship picture, especially because the story already ended. I don't see why Naito should go back into that picture. So Naito's out of the question. That only leaves Okada, and Okada was the #1 contender. So I honestly feel like Okada more than likely is going to get that championship back first. Do I want to see Okada win the championship? A lot of you already know I don't want to see Okada win anything. But I don't really see who else from their booking standpoint they would have in that spot. From my standpoint, what I want to see, I personally would like to see Shingo with that championship. But Okada, I get the sense, is probably going to win that thing. Now, I don't know how long Will Ospreay will be out. No one does yet. But I'm almost certain when he comes back, and if he comes back in time for Wrestle Kingdom 16, they will likely do Okada versus Will Ospreay Wrestle Kingdom 16. I still firmly believe the plan was probably going to be to do Ospreay and Okada at the Dome, have Ospreay or Okada win, then do the rematch one more time at Wrestle Kingdom. Now, in order to get to that point, Will Ospreay would have to be back in time for the G1 Climax in order to win that, tournament, which I believe the G1 Climax this year will be in September. So from now to September is like 4 months. So let's hope he gets back in time for G1 Climax. He could win the G1 and then face Okada. Not something I want to see, but something I feel like could happen. If Will Ospreay does not get back in time, then Okada's the champion, and he's going to face who exactly? Who do you put in that spot? That's where things get very messy for New Japan. And I know a lot of people will go to their defense saying they don't have a lot of guys, but my thing is that New Japan, they have people they can put in that top spot. They just don't put them in that spot. You can easily put someone like Shingo in the heavyweight scene, which we've seen him face off for the heavyweight championship last month, but he lost, and I'm almost certain he's probably not going to be back in that spot for a while. You could put somebody like a Suzuki in that spot, but they won't. You could put someone like a Goto or an Ishii in that spot, but they don't. You could put someone like a Taichi or a Zack Sabre Jr. in that spot, but they don't. Dare I say it, I mean, they could even stop dick around with Sonata, put him in that spot. But guess what? Anytime Sonata's in that spot, he always loses. So it's not like New Japan doesn't have the resources. They just don't use the resources that they have. So it's kind of hard for me to feel bad sometimes for this company when they have the capabilities to make these changes and they just don't. So yeah, I do feel bad for the fact that Will Ospreay is out with an injury. I do feel bad for them, having to, go out like basically decommission themselves for like 2 weeks because of COVID. But then you think about all the things they could have done, all the things they should have done. It's like, should I really be feeling bad for these guys? Really? I don't think so. That's the way I look at the way of the land right now in New Japan. Do I really care? Honestly, I really still don't care much about New Japan. They haven't given me a reason to care. And I don't know what that reason is going to look like because it's a lot of the same mats and storylines I've seen over the last 5 years. So, but anyway, guys, that's my take on Will Ospreay no longer being champion. What do you guys think? How would you guys book the World Heavyweight Championship picture going forward? Comment down below. Let your boy know. I love you guys always, and I will see you all later. Peace.